All right, everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here today. We greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get the recording started and we will be on our way ready to go. So welcome. Thank you for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time to talk about this really important topic, how to know when it's time to go. We are all still in the midst of what everyone has heard about, obviously, the Great Resignation. And we've heard that it might be slowing down just a little bit. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal recently saying that people have been moving to different jobs, thinking the benefits might be better, et cetera. And some of the people out there are disappointed that they haven't made the right change or they thought it would be better than it would. So this topic continues to be incredibly important. Given all of that, we really want people to find the right fit and know whether it's time to make a move or not, and think through this rationally, practically, and be really smart about it. I'm Hallie Crawford. I'm a certified career coach and the founder of Create Your Career Path. Just as a quick reminder, we are recording our session today, so you will receive a copy of the recording automatically. And we are also live broadcasting on YouTube Live as well. So we have been coaching and training since 2002. We absolutely love what we do, helping people take control of their career, find their career direction and figure out what their dream job is and make it a reality in a practical, realistic, kind of step-by-step way. As a certified career coach, I have a certification from the Coaches Training Institute out in California and an undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. And the advice and tips that we are giving all of you today, just so you know, is the same advice that we give to our clients to help them figure out, okay, are they in the right fit? Do they need to make a move? How do they know if they need to make a change? So let's go ahead and dive right in. With the COVID-19 impact, so much has happened in the workplace, understandably for so many different reasons and different people. Some of our clients have told us totally different things. Some people have said to us, gosh, I don't like my job working remotely because I've realized, for example, that my coworkers and being part of a team, et cetera, was critical to my fulfillment. All the way to other clients have told us, I don't ever want to go back to the office. And how do I tell my boss I basically never want to see her again in person? Haha. As a result of COVID and working remotely, we've become less motivated, less connected, and less engaged. And as we've gone back to a hybrid or in-person work environment, it's helping some of us in some ways, but it's made us really think about what we want in the long run. So one of the first things we want you to think about, please, is on the far right of this slide, is to consider and think about how long you have felt uncertain about your career path or your current job before you make a decision about making a leap or a change. Is it because of COVID mostly that you're feeling unsatisfied, or has it been longer than that? Because that can tell you whether, for example, this is a little bit more of a temporary feeling and you may need to give your organization or your company a little bit more time to kind of get settled on what their policies are going to be in terms of remote work, et cetera, et cetera. So consider how long you have felt this way before your final decision. Here's our agenda for today. We want to talk about why career fulfillment or fit is so important. We'll give you 8 red flags to know if you are in the wrong fit in the long run. We'll talk about why it's important to define fulfillment first, at least in our opinion and our experience. And we'll show you our ideal career model that we use with our clients to help them determine whether they're in the right fit, but also think about what the right long-term career direction might be for them. So let's talk first about why this is important. And just as a quick reminder, you will receive the recording automatically. You don't need to email us or anything else like that. You'll get it automatically. So why this is important, or being in the right fit, is because we don't want to be like the man on this slide. Too many people are not engaged at work. This working remotely in and out of the office, et cetera, et cetera. And when we're unsatisfied in our jobs in general, it really does take a huge toll on our quality of life, not just inside of work, but outside of it too. And people are twice as likely to have different kind of mental health issues as a result of being unsatisfied at work or dealing with all of the changes that we've been dealing with. And it's a really important thing to be thinking about and considering. There are lots of different reasons, if we look on this next slide, why we get stuck in the long run in the wrong fit. This happens to everybody, so it's normal. Don't feel badly if you're in the wrong fit. For some people, they were really good at this particular kind of task or project or job. And even though it wasn't rewarding, like they were good at it. So they just kind of fell into it. Some people will say, well, the job was offered and I needed to pay my bills. Some people say, I feel like my salary and my benefits have been so good. I've got the golden handcuffs, so to speak. So one of the other things that you can start to think about, and it's a great idea to make a list of these things, is to ask yourself the question, why am I in my current job? And look at the list that you come up with and think about whether these are the right or the wrong reasons to be where you are. That can help you be a little bit more objective in thinking about this, okay? And part of what we want you to think about as we think about the right fit is what we have found with our clients is that they usually, when they first come to us, they feel like they need to make a huge dramatic change in order to be satisfied and feel good about their jobs. And that's because they've been so unhappy, for example, for so long, or they're just so frustrated or whatever else is going on. They're having that kind of visceral emotional reaction sometimes. And 9 times out of 10, kind of the good news is that they need less dramatic of a change than they actually think they do in order to be satisfied. So we want you to think about your satisfaction, if you will, and how dramatic of a change you need to make as on a spectrum. It's not black or white, like, okay, I need to get something completely different in order to be happy. No, it may be that, you're satisfied like some of the time. And so that may mean, for example, that you need just a role change within your same industry. Or maybe it's the opposite, that you need to be doing, the same type of thing within your industry. But for example, it's just at a different company with a better culture. So you want to think about kind of the levers, so to speak, of industry, organization, and role. Those are the different things you need to be considering that you may want to change up a little bit to increase your satisfaction. Okay. So you can ask yourself too, how dramatic of a change is really needed? And we're going to give you the tools today to help you get that answer. So the good news, as I've already said, is it's usually less dramatic of a change. And also, you can actually be incredibly engaged and fulfilled in your job. We want you to have the right perspective, and I'll show you that on our next slide here. But the other good news, too, is that employers are listening more than they ever have to what people want, and they're more open to it. Now, this doesn't mean you're going to get every single thing that you want, but we have heard from our clients that they are getting stipends for education, including personal things, to help them with their work-life balance. And also other people are telling us, hey, my company gave us our bonus early because they were worried that people are going to be leaving. Now, we want you to have the right perspective and be realistic at the same time, though, too. And let me just move this out of the way because I'm not sure if it's in the way there. We've all heard the saying, right? Do what you love and the money will follow. I agree with that to a certain extent, but I will also say that I love what I do, but the money didn't just follow. It didn't just fall out of the sky. I worked very hard to get to where I am today and still do so. So it's not just this simple, easy thing necessarily. And also, to be realistic too, you don't want to make the assumption or put so much pressure on your job thinking that, okay, every single second of the day at work is going to be peaches and cream. That's not going to be realistic at all. What you want to go for instead is at the bottom of this slide, that the good parts about your job so far outweigh the bad parts, the things you don't like as much, that you barely notice those things that you don't like as much, okay? And the other thing that we have found too is that when people are a choice, in terms of where they are compromising with their jobs, they feel a lot better too. So we all have to compromise to a certain extent. That's just part of the deal. I do too. There are things about, being a business owner that I don't like as much as other things. But because I've chosen and proactively I thought about it, I knew that, for example, I could deal with the fact that our revenue may fluctuate a little bit month to month and kind of that risk there, because all of the other things that are good for me about the job far outweigh that part or any other parts that I don't like. So be realistic is our first tip, and consider why this is so important as well too. Tip number 2 is to go through our 8 red flags for knowing if for sure you are in the wrong fit. Let's go through those. We'll start with the first 4. Number 1, if you basically dread getting out of bed every morning, and it's not just the Monday morning blues, it's like every single day, that's definitely a red flag that you're not in the right fit. You should feel excited to get out of bed in the morning with your job, at least to a certain extent, and several days a week. Okay. Number 2 is your work relationships and performance are suffering. If this is the case for you, huge red flag. And number 3 is if you gain little or no joy or satisfaction from your job, that's a huge red flag. Now, we talk with our clients sometimes about feeling passionately about their work, or, having that sense of purpose in their work. And we love that. That's fantastic. But please know that everyone wants to feel differently about their jobs. Some people will just say to us, look, I just want to have a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction, and that I'm doing the right thing. That's cool too. Whatever fulfillment looks like for you is what is true for you. And that's totally fine. There's no right or wrong there. And red flag number 4 is if you've noticed you have kind of senioritis, if you started to slack off and have little or no motivation about your job, that is a huge red flag that you're in the wrong fit. You want to consider a change. Number 5 is a really important one. If you feel like you have to become someone else at work, if you can't be truly authentic. Now, we realize that we all have and need to have a professional persona. We're not going to let everything hang out at work personally. That's not appropriate to do so. But if you feel like you have to almost turn into a different person in a way to fit in at work and be successful there, that's a huge red flag. Number 6 is if your job doesn't make good use of your talents, and those talents that you want to be using, because some of them you may be like, I want to put those to the wayside. I'm kind of tired of them. If it's not using them on a regular basis, that's a red flag. And number 7 and 8 are if you find yourself spending the majority of your time complaining about your job, that's not good. And 8 is if you regularly fantasize about quitting, being fired, or let go, huge red flag. Now, this one is kind of funny to read in a way, but we also realize too that it's not funny at all to be fired or let go. Most people, that's not what we want in any way, shape, or form. There was a client though several years ago who's just a really good example of this. We got on the phone with her, and she was working with one of our coaches. And a few seconds in, they said, you sound really good today. What happened? And she said, I got fired last week, and it was the best thing that's ever happened to me. She was having a really hard time leaving because she felt guilty and loyal and was scared to make the change, totally understandably. So something like that had to happen to her, like a door needed to close and someone else needed to close it on her, so to speak, in order for her to have that push to move forward into the next best thing. Here's our results, or how to evaluate your results, I should say, for the red flag test. If you've got 1 or 2 red flags, you may just be going through a rough patch. You may want to make some changes or adjustments based on what we're talking about today to see if your current job can be a little bit better, and then reevaluate it in 3 months. See how it goes. If you have 3 or 4 red flags, you're probably not in the right career, but you may be closer than you think to your ideal. Write down what works for you at your current job and what doesn't work to get started. Seeing it in black and white and writing like that can be so incredibly helpful. And if you have 5 or more red flags, it is definitely time to make a change. And we want you to consider strongly making some kind of move, keeping in mind about being dramatic or not, when like we talked about earlier. That's our 8 red flag test. Let's talk about defining fulfillment first. Part of the way to know if you're if it's time to make a move, if you're in the right fit or not, is to think about, are you fulfilled in some way, shape, or form by your job? Because here's what we found is that you can get paid great money, have great benefits, you can, enjoy your coworkers, etc. But most people want to have at least some sense of fulfillment in their job in some way, shape, or form. Even if that's not the main reason you're working, if it's other reasons, we want to at least speak to our heart a little bit. So you want to consider this first because of that. And also because what we have found is if you think about fulfillment first and what would be really rewarding to you, that actually helps our clients brainstorm more ideas about, other possible career paths for them than any other part of our career model, which we'll show you in just a moment. So there are 4 ways we would recommend starting to define fulfillment for you. One way is to journal for 5 minutes about how you define success. What does success mean to you post-COVID, during this time, of your life and your career, etc.? How has it changed maybe because of COVID? A second thing to do is to identify and really think about your interests a little bit more and kind of dig underneath those a little bit more. Those things that you lose track of time, either at work or personally. Even think about your hobbies. And even if your hobbies, for example, or your personal interests are not things that would be realistic career paths for you to pursue, that's okay. Think about underneath them, what is cool about those things for you, because those can be clues to what some of your possible values are that you could maybe try to incorporate into your current job, like a little bit more creativity, a little bit more project management or attention to detail, whatever it is that you realize is cool for you or appealing to you about those interests. A third thing that we recommend is to visualize your ideal day at work. What qualities would it have? All the way from how would you be spending your time? What tasks or projects would you be working on? What talents would you be using? To the right work environment for you. And this would cover our career model, which we'll show you in a moment. But we really like for your ideal day at work too, if you're a more visual person, for example, it's a great idea to create a vision board here for your career. What would the right career be like for you? And how close is your current job to that visualization? And the last way, but we would say the most important and kind of in-depth way to define fulfillment, is to identify your top 3 career values. And another way that you can do this is to do a peak experience exercise, where you think about a moment in time or a period of time in your life. Personally, we like best because you get closer to who you are as a person and your heart. But the peak experience, you want to think about, it could be anything from, a trip that you planned and just loved, to when you graduated and got your MBA, whatever it is. But you want to think about what was cool about that experience for you, a little bit less about the details, but what was cool about it for you, because thinking about that can help you define what some of your possible values were. Was it cool because you had this great sense of accomplishment? Was it because you were working within a team and you felt supported and encouraged? Was it that because you were leading a group of people and you loved that kind of leadership quality to things? So identifying your top 3 career values and knowing and understanding whether your current career path and your current job is honoring those values is a huge step to figuring out if you're in the right fit or not, okay? Because if your values are not being honored, and even more so if they're being stepped on, that is a huge red flag. I would say that would be number 9. We always offer, if you feel like you need additional help based on what we're talking about today, we always offer a free career strategy session for anyone who would like a little bit more advice for their situation, and also to learn about our coaching services. You can just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com, and we'll send you a link to get scheduled with us. Happy to do that. Tip number 4 is to review the ideal career model. This is the model that I developed when I first started my coaching practice, and we've adjusted it along the way as times have changed. The career model shows you the 8 components to the right fit in terms of a career. So you can basically use it as a checklist to say, does my current job and career check all of these boxes? The model helps you be more objective and consider all of the necessary components of the right fit, not just one or two things, because that would be too short-sighted, if you will. And we recommend that you review each piece one by one and think about each one for a few minutes at least, kind of as a checklist, as we said, to really dig deeper into, okay, is my current job fitting all of these pieces? I'll explain what the pieces are here for you for just a second. So fulfillment, we've already talked about. This is about your values and that sense of reward, accomplishment, whatever it is that fulfillment means for you. Enjoyment is about, are you performing tasks on a regular basis that you really enjoy, and maybe even some kind of ancillary tasks that are like icing on the cake. That, for example, for me, coaching is like my primary goal and thing. Although we have our coaches do the coaching these days, I still love writing articles, et cetera, et cetera. But I actually love presenting webinars like this and giving speeches, et cetera. So although I'm not a full-time presenter, that's icing on the cake for me, that I get to do those types of things and create PowerPoint presentations, because I like being creative in that way. Just enough. I'm not an artist, but just enough being creative. You want to be making sure that you're leveraging your strengths on a regular basis too. If you're not, like we said, it's a red flag. You want to think too about if you're leveraging your past education in a way, and if you want to be leveraging your education at all. And you also want to be thinking about your past experience and how much you're leveraging your past experience and what you bring to the table there. Again, if you want to be doing so. If you don't, that's okay. You can think about, what other type of experience do I have maybe that I'd like to leverage a little bit more, bring to the forefront. And apparently my dog agrees. He's barking in the background. So the last three of the model are your personality type, work environment, and compensation. Personality type is very critical to the type of role that you're in and if it's a fit for you. Whether you're in the right culture and work environment, these two interact enormously. And whether, for example, like you're introverted or extroverted, and are you in the right type of job based on that? Or are you more of a detail-oriented person or a big picture strategic person? Again, these types of things, personality-wise, really impact if you're in the right fit, especially because your personality type, it is what it is. It's not going to change, okay? So these two interact a lot, as you can imagine. The right work environment is also a make or break for being in the right fit. We have had so many clients come to us. One in particular, she was at one of the big four consulting firms in Chicago. And when she first came to us, she said, you know what, I think I need to be a chef and do something completely different. I'm so unhappy. But when it came down to it and she worked with us, she realized it's really the work environment that's the problem. And she decided to go be like an in-house consultant instead and working within an organization, because it was that big of a make or break for her. And finally, compensation, last but absolutely not least. It's a huge issue or a concern or, priority, if you will. And it's a big deal now these days, because when we talk to our clients about compensation, we're also talking about benefits. It's the whole package. And there are things that you might want to be asking for that were different before, like remote work, et cetera. Okay. If any of you have taken a career assessment before, we always just like to kind of bring this up for two reasons. Number one, to recommend an assessment that we like. We tend to like the StrengthsFinder assessment just because we think that one is low cost. It's great information. It's accurate, gives you information, in a very short period of time. And it's also really easy to understand and comprehend. You don't need an expert to help you interpret the results. But if you're interested in taking an assessment, two things there. Number one, we do offer a StrengthsFinder assessment review. Feel free to email us at admin@halliecrawford.com to get more information about that. We can help you compare the assessment to all of the different pieces of our model. And the second thing, though, too, is if you have taken assessment before or you'd like to do so again, you do need to be careful and keep in mind that assessments are only one piece to the puzzle, okay? So don't expect an assessment to be the magic wand and one size fits all to tell you at the end of the day whether you should stay or go. The assessments will usually test you for things like your strengths, maybe your personality type, maybe one or two things, but they're not going to talk with you about, or show you, I guess, about compensation or some of these other pieces. So if you have taken an assessment and you feel like, okay, I took it, I thought it was going to be more helpful, please don't discount them. But remember, they are one piece to the puzzle. You've got to plug it into the career model and consider all of the other pieces as well. And then finally, before we wrap up today, because I think we're almost at the top of the half hour and I want to be mindful of your time as well, is you want to be kind of flexible and brainstorm what the different options are that could make you feel a little bit happier if you do decide that you want to make a change. And before you make that change, part of your thought process needs to be reading the room of your industry and your organization, like, or the one that you may want to be getting into. Are they thriving and hiring, or are they struggling a little bit? Is now a good time to make a move or not? So you want to think about, should it be now or later, including or in addition to how dramatic of a change you may need to make. And then also consider, okay, if I can't get these like three things over here necessarily at my current job, but I need to stay a while longer, for example, what else would I be happy with? What could help me feel a little bit more fulfilled, satisfied, etc., that maybe I could ask for at my current employer and just see what they say. More flex time, a title change, a bonus, something like that. So we'd like you to walk away before we leave here. Two things we'll say is we'd like you to walk away with at least one or two action items that you will take in order to take some baby steps towards figuring out whether it's time to stay or go. We would recommend reviewing the ideal career model as a good first step, and then digging into each one, especially fulfillment, by identifying your values. If you would like to sign up for a complimentary consultation to get some more advice and learn about coaching, you can just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. And as a quick reminder, we will send you a copy of the recording today. We do not typically share our slides unless it is a paid webinar or to our paid coaching clients. So thanks for your patience with that. We give as much away free as we possibly can. So if you have any other questions about our coaching services, you can just email us. But as a reminder, you will get a copy of the recording automatically within the next 24 hours. I really thank you all so much for your time today. We greatly appreciate your time and attention, and truly hope that this was helpful for you today. Good luck and have a great day.